we can go on the record. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Wednesday, February the 28th, 2024. It's 1:02 p.m. We're here today for the evidentiary hearing, which is annual in the continuing investigation of the electric fuel and purchase power cost adjustment charges of Thurmont Municipal Electric Light Company. This iteration is case number 9506R. We can start with appearances.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Tom Rudebush of the law firm of Duncan Weinberg, Genzer, and Pembroke, appearing on behalf of the town of Thurmont, doing business as the Thurmont Municipal Light Company.
Good afternoon, Mr. Rudebush.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Brock Miller on behalf of the Office of People's Counsel.
Good afternoon, Mr. Miller. Is your light, you might have to push the push button so your light comes on.
Oh, it wasn't on, really. It was just looking very green. Annette Garofalo, on behalf of Commission staff.
Good morning, Ms. Garofalo. All right, I'll turn to the company.
As a preliminary matter, Your Honor, I'd like to have marked for evidence as Exhibit T1, the public notice and affidavit of publication. Copies have been provided to counsel, and I've given copies to the court reporter for you.
Thank you. Thurmont Exhibit 1 is marked.
Thank you. I'd like to call Mr. Christopher S. Sims to the stand.
Can you stand and raise your right hand, please? Do you swear and affirm under penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Can you state your first, you can sit. Can you state your first and last name for the court reporter, please?
Christopher Sims.
Mr. Rudebush, your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you please state your name and business address, please?
Christopher Sims, 571st Street, Ocean City, Maryland, 21842.
And did you prepare direct testimony and exhibits that were filed as mail log number 307700?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, I'd like to have marked for identification Exhibit T2, the direct testimony of Christopher S. Sims, which is a cover sheet, 2 pages of testimony, and 3 exhibits marked as CSS1, CSS2, and CSS3.
Thurmont Exhibit 2 is marked.
And I have 2 copies here for Your Honor, or the court reporter. Thank you.
Thurmont Exhibit 2 is marked.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Sims, was this testimony and exhibits prepared by you?
Yes, they were.
And if I asked you these same questions today, would you have the same answers?
Yes, I would.
Your Honor, I have no further questions for the witness.
Are there any objections to the admission of Thurmont Exhibits 1 and 2?
No objection,
No
Your
objection,
Honor.
Your Honor.
Any questions from Office of People's Counsel?
No, Your Honor. For the witness, you mean?
Yes.
No, Your Honor.
Any questions from staff?
I do have some questions.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sims.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Sims, who is Thurmont's current commodity provider?
So they have a contract with Energy Harbor.
And is this company under contract with Thurmont?
Yes, they are.
And when does the current contract end?
It is set to expire on May 31st, 2024.
So it would expire during the preceding
That's
period
correct.
that we're talking about today. How is Thurmont currently in the process of procuring a new contractor?
Well, not that they're necessarily going to contract for a new supplier. Although to make matters more difficult, Energy Harbor is changing their name again as of March 1st. But setting that aside, there was an RFP that was released last year, and the top 2 respondents from that RFP are the ones that the town of Thurmont is continually in negotiations with. And one of them is Energy Harbor, so it could be an extension of the current contract, or if the other supplier provides a lower price, then effectively they may switch to an alternate one.
Thank you for those magic words that you put into your response. There's no contract as of today. You're in the bid process, and someone will be selected
That's
based on
correct.
that bid process.
Mhm.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
So there's nothing about the RFP in your direct testimony filing, am I right, or did I miss something?
I'm not sure if I mentioned the RFP specifically, but the indicative pricing that we continue to receive is a result of the RFP. So
Okay,
that's
so define indicative pricing.
indicative pricing is a quote for what the power supply cost, the price of power will be starting June 1st of 2024. So they give us contracts, and the town has the option to either execute those contracts, and then it would be in effect for that period of time, or we can just continue to wait until there is a price attractive enough that would cause the town to select that price.
So the current contract ends May 31st.
That's correct.
When is it necessary for the town to complete a new contract?
So it's not necessary. The town can purchase power directly from PJM because we are PJM members. But effectively, if we were to extend the contract with Energy Harbor, we would have up until midnight, May 31st.
Okay, how many RFPs were sent out?
So well, I mean, there's one RFP for the town.
Okay, how many bids were received?
There were, I believe, over a dozen.
And in your response to Ms. Garofalo's questioning, you said the top 2 bids. How were those determined?
So basically, I mean, the largest factor is obviously price, but you do take into consideration the financial stability of the supplier because you don't want them to default on their obligations. So you have to make sure that they are.
And one of those top 2 bids was from Energy Harbor, the current
That's correct.
contract.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The indicative pricing is based off of the Energy Harbor bid?
I mean, that's correct.
Okay. And is Thurmont continuing to receive bids from Energy Harbor?
That's correct. Energy Harbor and the other top provider that responded to the RFP. So we get price refreshes on a bi-weekly basis. Every other week, we get a price.
Okay, so let's talk about timing. There's a sweet spot for when this hearing has to be, right? It has to be after you're able to give data for your billing PCA billing period, which is April through March, which is why we have the hearing this early in February. You have to give a couple of estimated months. Is that right?
That's right.
But you want those key numbers in an order from the PSC prior to the start of your new year, which is in April, right, for April billing?
Well, I mean, the reason that the PCA year doesn't match up effectively exactly with the month that we're in is because, I mean, after we have the hearing, then there's an additional 30-day or 45-day period where the PCA is not even finalized until then. So we can't physically start charging it until effectively mid-April in most cases, and their billing period starts right on April 15th is when they read meters. So, depending on where we are in that cycle, that's why oftentimes it wouldn't be until May's billing meter reads that we would start applying the new PCA. So it's not a consequence of when the hearing is. It's that the PCA that's being calculated always assumes that 2-month lag period between the hearing and when we would actually be allowed to charge that PCA.
I understand.
Mhm.
Okay, on the cover letter of your testimony,
Mhm.
in that third paragraph, you have the result will be, the result of the request will be an approximate increase of 20% to an average residential customer's electric bill.
Mhm.
And then on page 2 of your actual testimony, at line 16 through 17, you state that the PCA for the upcoming billing period would need to increase by approximately 32%. So explain to me the differences in those percentages.
That's right. So in my cover letter, the 20% is a result of the customer's total bill, of which the PCA is just a portion of. And so, yes, their total bill is going up 20%, but specifically the PCA portion is what's going up 32. So just what they're paying for power supply is going up 32%. What they're paying for distribution costs to the town is staying the same.
Included in that 32% is the under collection from last year. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, any adjustment, yes. Mhm.
Okay. And it's fair to say that in any given year, we have an over collection or an under collection of a certain amount because it's not a precise science.
That's right, yeah, but always less than 3%.
Do you think going with an indicative price at this point, as opposed to what the actual price will be, adds a little to that volatility?
So the indicative price is from the 16th of February. And so the thought that the prices will change drastically between now and May 31st is fairly unlikely.
Thurmont's hopeful. That's why they haven't entered into a contract, right?
I mean, that is correct. Mhm. But, even if it's only $1 or $2 per megawatt hour less, that's still $1 or $2 per megawatt hour less, $100,000 or so to the customers.
I absolutely get it.
Mhm.
If Thurmont were to not receive an order from the commission until after it had entered into a bid for the upcoming 12 or 18 months or whatever the bid would be, until it enters into a contract, would that have any detriment to Thurmont, to its customers?
So there would be no detriment to the customers up until May 31st, because we know with relative confidence exactly what our power supply costs will be through the end of this contract. So technically, not adjusting the PCA up until May 31st is completely fine. It wouldn't have any effect on the customers. It's just a question of, after that, what the difference, if there is a difference in price. I mean, I guess the mechanism still exists. Like, if they are going to over-collect as a result of this PCA, then we would have to come back and adjust the PCA accordingly in less than a 12-month time period, if that were the case. Because there is that 3% threshold. You're not allowed to over or under collect by more than 3%. I mean, because there is a possibility that the cost could be even higher than what we've put here. We just don't know exactly what the final number will be, if one at all.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions. Does anyone have any questions based on mine?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Mr. Sims, you talked about the over and under and the 3%. Could you describe a little bit more about what would happen if the PCA exceeded the 3%?
Yeah, so I mean, it's in the town's ordinance, and it's in effectively every electric utilities ordinance across the country. It's not just us. But one of the functions of the PCA is that it allows for more rapid movements, more changes in price necessary when there's changes in cost. So it more accurately collects from the customers, more adjusts what you collect from customers, allows you to do that more quickly so that it's on a dollar for dollar basis, because the power supply costs, you always intend to recover from customers exactly what your power supply costs are. And it's, so if we are predicting by the end of this 12-month PCA period that we're forecasting out in the future that we would be over collecting or under collecting power supply costs specifically from customers by more than 3% of the total annual power supply cost, there would have to be a recalculation of the PCA.
So you're saying that if the actual number is above or below more than 3%, the town would have to come back for a re-levelization of the PCA.
That's correct.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions.
The period that you're asking for is April through March, correct? The 3% is from April to March, because that's your PCA period.
So it looks at what the over and or under collection will be at the end of that 12-month period. So you're right. I mean, technically, it's looking at what is our best forecast as to what the over under collection will be at the end of end of March 2025.
So at the end of March of this year, we know what the charges are going to be up until that point. We
That's
don't know
correct.
exactly what the usage is, but we know pretty much. So how close are we to that 3%?
How close are we?
Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's why the over under collection is only, what is it,
It's 90,000 for the.
or $90,000? Yeah. So that's 1.5%. So we're within that 3% bandwidth, which is why we've never had to, since we've had those contracts in place, we've never had to do multiple PCA filings a year because we've always been able to maintain within that 3% limit.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions?
No, Your Honor.
Office of People's Counsel?
None, Your Honor.
Staff?
No.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Your Honor, I'd like to have moved into Evidence Exhibit T-2.
Any objection to Thurmont 1 or Thurmont 2?
No objection.
No, Your Honor.
Thurmont 1 and 2 are admitted.
Thank you.
Does that rest your case?
It does, Your Honor.
Okay. Office of People's Counsel?
We have no witness, no evidence to put into the record, Your Honor.
What is the Office of People's Counsel position?
And we reviewed the data provided by the company and staff's analysis, and OPC does not oppose the company's request for authority to bill the stated PSA factor for the upcoming 12-month period.
Okay. And what is the Office of People's Counsel position on the reasonableness of the company's practices in procuring and purchasing fuel and its competitive practices in procuring and purchasing fuel, power, gas?
Your Honor, based on our analysis, our position is that it is reasonable and competitive.
Okay, thank you. Staff?
Yes, Your Honor, staff would like to call Ms. Tanika Alexander.
Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Will you state and spell your first and last name for the court reporter, please?
Tanika Alexander, T as in Tom, A, N like Nancy, Y-E-K-A. Last name is Alexander, A-L-E-X-A-N as in Nancy, D-E-R.
Your witness, Ms. Garofalo.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Alexander.
Good afternoon.
Ms. Alexander, do you have with you a document entitled Direct Testimony of Tanika R. Alexander, file dated February 26th?
Yes.
Was that document prepared by you or under your supervision?
Yes, it was.
And do you have any changes you would like to make to the document at this time?
No.
And if you were asked the same questions contained in this document today, would your answers be the same?
Yes, they would.
Do you adopt this testimony as your sworn testimony in this case, number 9506R?
Yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, the witness is available for cross-examination.
Office of People's Counsel,
No cross, Your Honor.
Thurmont.
Nothing, Your Honor. Thank you.
Ms. Alexander, how many pages of testimony does your copy have?
Should be 6 pages.
Okay. And how many pages of attachments?
Pages of attachments were only 2.
Okay. So I see attachment B. It says it's Thurmont's response to staff DR 1.2 and Thurmont's response to staff DR 1.4, but in the filed version, there's no responses attached.
Okay.
Your Honor, I can give you those and make sure they're filed, but perhaps Ms. Alexander could show you those 2 documents.
I do not have those attachments as well. I pulled from the filing, but it was not attached to my filing. They were responses.
I see on page 6 of your testimony, you footnoted the response to staff data request 1.4 as footnote 3, which refers to the requirements by the current contract, the full requirements contract, and the response to 1-2 is the current energy supply contract hasn't been amended.
No amendments.
And then it says information on Thurmont's RFP was provided in supplemental response to staff DR 16F, but that's not listed as one of your attachments.
It is not.
So I guess my question to all counsel is, at this point, we're here for the hearing today, and there's no evidence as to the competitiveness and the reasonableness of what's before us. And we don't have an actual contract past the end of May, so I'm not sure why we're moving forward today.
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Alexander, that we have a proposed contract.
Yeah, it was confidential version, and we did receive a redacted version as well. I do have them in my hand. The redacted version, maybe?
Ms. Groffel, you have no other witnesses today, correct?
I do have one other person I was going to call. He does not have written testimony, however.
Okay.
However, in the, I did provide or send over the attachments to council. I just believe they just were not submitted with the filing due to the short time frame.
Okay. Ms. Alexander, how many times before in these types of filings before the commission that we do on a yearly basis for any company have we gone forward based on indicative pricing?
To my knowledge, I understand that there is another utility that is doing this same procedure. And with my research, it is something that I located as something that is regulatory, meaning that they are using the price that they know now. So how many times have we done that? I would say just once with one case that
What case is that?
The Williamsport case? That's what the witness let me know, that they were able to do that with Williamsport.
And was that this year?
Yes. But all 3 of yes, that contract was ended as well, and so the indicative pricing was used.
I was just trying to look that up.
Your Honor, it's 9507Q.
So last year.
Last October.
Yes.
Okay. you have any testimony as to whether, I guess, Thurmont's contract for last year was competitively billed?
Being that they have been with this supplier the entire time, I would say no, other than the previous testimony that was done in relations to their procurement. There wasn't a need to have any testimony done on it.
Okay, I don't have any further questions.
Your Honor, would you like to see the contract that may well be adopted in the middle of this year?
Well, at the very least, I would like to see the attachments that were, I guess, intended to be attached to
Yes.
the testimony. I don't, there's just a few things that we have to do in this hearing, right? These hearings have gotten to be fairly short in recent years, but I'm not sure that we're there yet. So I'd be happy to take a recess and allow you time to show the other attachments and provide those, and talk amongst yourselves about what you'd like to do at this hearing. Or I'd be happy to go ahead and recess for longer and postpone this case long enough for the company to execute a new contract so we have some definite pricing for the next year.
Okay, so, well, certainly I can get the attachments, but and we have the current contract, which is for part of this year, and we have the proposed contract, but of course it has not been accepted or signed yet. So I'm willing to if Your Honor feels the need to have that, rather than have a contract signed in the middle of the year, then it may make sense to adjourn.
I believe that it was Mr. Sims' testimony that the company has what it needs
Yes.
in order to continue billing through at least the end of April, if not through
I think it's
May,
May
since
31st.
they already have a contract through May. As far as the reconciliation, we're required to have a hearing once a year, but I'm not sure that now's the appropriate time to reconcile the last year and to decide what to do for the upcoming year based on the evidence we have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a brief recess to allow you time to come up with those exhibits so that portion of the record is clear, and I'll leave it up to council as to what you want to do with any other evidence when we get back.
All right, thank you.
So we can go off the record for about 15 minutes. Thank you.
So can you go get the two data requests? I know that. Just go get them.
And then this right here says the indicative pricing request, and then it just says, but I mean, it's the indicative pricing that we have. I don't really know, and it's the confidential version. I wasn't supposed to give her that, right?
Well, she indicated she didn't want to see it because it wasn't signed. So, but if you go get the two
Okay.
items that are supposed to be attached to your,
Okay,
these two things.
This is it, and then she referenced.
1, 2, and 1, 4.
And then she referenced an exhibit that's not attached to my testimony,
Yeah.
which is the RFP.
Right,
That's this. She doesn't.
right. She doesn't want that. She wants DR 1-2 and DR 1-4, the responses to them.
Okay, and I'm just gonna print it out just for general purposes, since she mentioned it. She said it's not attached to my testimony, but,
It's not supposed to be.
okay.
You didn't want it to be attached.
No, okay, so, all right.
was just gonna tie this up in a bow at the end, but I don't think we're gonna get there, right?
Well, what were you planning on doing?
I was by having next year's on March 15th, where they're asking, provided we held off on our order, and we wouldn't have this problem, because my witness had like 5 days to do her testimony, including 2
Well,
weekend
that's
days.
the problem. It's like you take the pricing. That's the problem. That's not the other thing's not the problem.
Yeah, well, but it could make it a little bit, so, tell me about the present, because my witness didn't have to that.
Our intention would always be to have a contract in place so we know what the forecasted number's gonna be. It's just not the situation this year.
Right.
We have to use indicative pricing because there's no contract to base our number
Well,
on.
you could, I mean, you don't have to have a contract. You could be buying from the market.
Exactly.
I mean, the idea that you have to have a contract is not, she's got some idea in her head that she had before she got here.
Yeah, okay, so let's figure out what we should do. I mean, I'd kind of like to complete this case
Oh, yeah.
and come back next year.
Yeah.
Or have someone who come back
Well, or
next
come
year.
back in the middle of the year, because if
Oh,
it's outside
yeah,
of 3% band.
actually, that
That's
might
the
be.
best point. That's what I was trying to make before, when she was giving you the eagle eye, because I was bringing out the, we can always come back if we're outside the bounds.
Well, how about we propose that we come back in 6 months, is that enough? Let's see, what, month of February?
That would get us, we would have
March,
a,
April,
well,
May,
we may have a contract in place, we may not.
July, August, we might not have to do that.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll be on vacation. Okay, so tell me what that means, that you might not come to an agreement?
No.
We have the option of buying straight from the market if
Yeah.
if
See, I
the
was
numbers.
gonna put, my next witness was gonna explain to her how this might look high for Thurmont, but, you know, it's really low for
Absolutely.
everything.
Yeah.
Potomac Edison is
Over
10
100.
cents. Yeah, I think. And you're 6.6 or 7.6. There's at least 2 cents, a
Oh,
little
yeah.
bit more
Yeah.
in between. So that's why what my witness was gonna talk about. I don't know whether I should call him or not.
He knows what he's talking about.
Well, he knows the SOS, that's all he's saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's in Chris's testimony, too. It is in Chris's testimony, too. If you want to see that.
Oh,
He's got
sorry.
the comparison of Potomac.
Oh, he does, okay, well, let's look at this. See, I didn't even have time to read his testimony, but I've seen it before, and I looked at the chart, so, okay, 20% less, right. It's 9.3, okay. And that's subject to a competitive bid,
Yeah.
so,
It's got to be, if that's competitive, we have to be competitive.
right.
Right,
and-
that was
Right,
our analyst who did it, that was his position. I mean, that's,
right,
yeah.
so,
Comparatively, I mean, if this is competitive, then something lower
Has to be.
has to be.
yeah, so,
I mean,
Well, should I put
and it's certainly
Chris back on the
reasonable.
stand, or you want to put your witness on?
Chris is in evidence,
Yes.
and so maybe we, if you didn't mind, maybe we should put him up. And then I could follow with Kevin if need be. But I could just say, you know, my witness was here really to talk about the fact that Potomac Edison does a competitive bid. They have a price of X, and this is.
Well, if he can testify to that, that sounds great to me.
Okay.
I can say to the, to
Oh,
her honor,
okay,
I can say
okay.
it's already in evidence that what his testimony is. I'm not sure I need to put him back on the stand.
Okay, okay. So I'll ask if I can introduce him, and then when he's done, maybe, or I don't know if this should be coming before or after, but you could then make
Probably
that
before.
proffer.
I'll say something before.
Okay.
That you have another witness that you'd like to present.
Right, okay. But she really wants to know what we want to do about this case. Of course, what we want to do is have her write an order, but late enough so that this hearing can be scheduled March 15th.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So, I can say that's what we agreed to, and we have additional evidence about the competitiveness of the rates, if she'd like to hear that.
And if we're outside the bounds, we have to come back.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if
see
she
what
says,
the-
if she says she's not going to do it, well, okay.
Okay, done.
Okay.
I kind of hate to do this, but we just did Hagerstown, and they did sign the contract, and it's more.
Oh,
It's less than.
see, I was told Hagerstown switched to another supplier.
They did.
Because this was more expensive than who they selected.
No, what Thurmont's hoping Thurmont's hoping to get a better price.
By waiting a little bit,
Mhm.
yeah, okay. And February would be the absolute worst time to sign a contract
Right.
for fuel. Yeah, okay. Well, so Thurmont doesn't want to sign the contract today.
Not that contract. no.
Not that one, okay, all right. Maybe that would be persuasive.
Right, that's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah,
I
so
hope it would be persuasive.
I think if, you tell her that, I think we're willing to do whatever she wants us to do.
Always.
Because we, but, so you could tell her that, but of course, that she should be aware that, not only is there a
can go back on the record.
Mr. Ritterbusch is going to speak for us, but I would ask before that happens that, just in case this hearing concludes, that you mark Ms. Tanika's testimony as Staff Exhibit 1.
Staff Exhibit 1 is marked. Are there any objections to its admission at this time?
None, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. And I see in front of me two data responses, staff data request 1-2 and 1-4.
Perhaps we should mark those as Staff Exhibit 2, and I'll file them after the hearing.
That would be great. Any objection to Staff Exhibit 2?
None, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. I'll turn to you, but before I have a question. You mentioned 9507Q, which was Williamsport, with regards to the indicative pricing. I just pulled it and had a chance to review it, so I haven't thoroughly reviewed it. I also had printer problems. But am I correct that indicative pricing was only used for 2 or 3 months in that case?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, go ahead.
So addressing, Your Honor, the question of the competitiveness of the indicative pricing that is proposed to being used to set the PCA this year, I'd just like to start by referring to page 2 of Mr. Sims' testimony.
Sure. Go ahead.
It's on the answer that's on lines 14 through 20. And we see there that on line 17, the indicative price that we're using is the .072225. And then below that is Potomac Edison's current kilowatt hour price, which is .09328. And Potomac Edison's SOS price is competitively determined, and the price that we're using is considerably less than what that competitive outcome produced. So if we're looking for evidence of competitive pricing, Your Honor, I would think that that would be sufficient, although I'm happy to put our witness back on the stand, or there may be other witnesses who could address the competitiveness of the process. But to me, that seems like pretty clear evidence that whatever price we come up with is going to be better than our major competitor.
I appreciate that argument. Thank you. So this is what I think we're going to do. I don't think I need to hear from Mr. Mosier today. I'd like to set a further hearing on this matter in the end of May and ask for further testimony from the company. Staff Accounting Division only had 7 days to do their testimony this time. I think that's kind of a short turnaround, so I'd like to give them two weeks. That still puts us in May, and I'm hoping that we'll have some further word on what's going to happen for the next year at that time. And I'm hoping that staff will put in some evidence as to whether staff believes the processes used by Thurmont are appropriate pursuant to the statute.
Mm-hmm.
So out-of-towners, there's 2 out-of-towners. Do you prefer an early morning hearing or an afternoon hearing? Okay, so I'm looking at May 20, there's only one hearing so far set at the commission in May, and that's May 1st. So I'm looking at May 22nd. Does anyone have a conflict with that date? You're not available that whole week or that day?
No, not that day at all.
Okay. May the 23rd?
I'm sorry.
I could, the afternoon would be better, but I'll do whatever you want, Your Honor.
Well, it sounds like staff's witness isn't available May 22nd or May 23rd.
Oh. 21st?
May 21st?
It's just that these are
after looks pretty clear.
Mr. Rudabush, when do you need an order from me in order to keep your billing kosher?
So, Your Honor, I'm told that we would, that the town would be applying we needed something in place before June 15th.
Okay, so that means that my order has to come out by May 31st. So, because we need 2 weeks at least 2 weeks for an appeal period, not necessarily by statute, but for the commissions, in case the commission wants to do something with that proposed order. So, how about the afternoon of Friday, May 17th? 1 o'clock,
Sure, that's fine.
Friday afternoon? Okay, so then I would ask for testimony from Thurmont by Friday, May 3rd. I realize that there's a whole month there.
Your Honor, I'm not sure if Your Honor is expecting there to be a signed contract, there may not be one by then.
Okay, this is what we're going to do. Wednesday, May 29th at 1 o'clock.
I'm certainly available.
Okay, what that means is we're going to take that hearing very slowly because I'm not going to have the opportunity to have a transcript after the hearing and prior to issuing my order. So we're going to take it pretty slowly that day so I can take copious notes.
Sure.
Okay. And we're going to look for testimony from Thurmont by close of business on Monday, May 20th. And we're going to look for, and if you can get it done earlier, that would be great. That would really help the process. But we're going to look for testimony from staff by the close of business on Tuesday, May 28th. So then that gives everyone a time to look at staff's testimony the day of the hearing before 1 o'clock. And I will attempt to have my order out by Friday, May 31st, close of business. And we'll be looking at a 15-day appeal period. So we will have, we should have a final order by Friday, June 14th. That's the best I can do.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I have something not exactly related to
Okay.
what you just said, but as you pointed out, there was a problem getting testimony out because of the shortness of, really, when numbers came into the company and when they were able to file their testimony. And so in the event that the second hearing that was just scheduled doesn't affect this, staff would ask that the date for the next hearing be March 15th, or hearings into the future, because that lines up, we think, with the company's schedule.
Is the company on board with that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so we're looking, in future hearings in this matter, we're looking for something as close to March 15th for a hearing as possible.
Right, probably not any earlier, but it could be right after.
Okay. Okay, I love that. That's a great, thank you for telling me that. Is there anything else from any party?
No, Your Honor.
Nothing, Your Honor.
OPC used to put in a lot of testimony on these issues that we're talking about today, and I haven't heard anything from OPC for the last few years. Should I expect that to be, because I didn't put in a date in the time frame that we were just talking about for testimony or from OPC, and OPC didn't put in testimony, but they asked a lot of questions on these subjects. So what can I expect from OPC before or up through the May 29th hearing?
Would Your Honor like OPC to file testimony? We do have consultants that do review this. The timeline and turnaround is difficult for OPC to file testimony between when we receive the data and the consultant reviewing it.
I'm not going to direct OPC to do anything.
Okay.
It was more curiosity's sake.
I can certainly have, I will discuss it internally with an OPC, but it's feasible for OPC to, on this later date, to file testimony.
Okay. So staff is going to file the staff Exhibit 2,
Yes,
the 2 data requests.
I'll do that today.
And I'm going to issue a further procedural order that has these dates that we've just discussed. And we're looking for testimony from Thurmont on May 20th, testimony from staff and/or OPC, if they desire, on May 28th, and a hearing on May 29th at 1 o'clock. Anything else we need to do this morning?
No, Your Honor.
Oh, that's quite enough.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your appearance and for your help with this matter today. We can go off the record.